Jeno Satyabhamara Swarupa.
Pandita Jagadananda Prabhura Pranarupa.
Pandita Jagadananda Prabhura Pranarupa.
Lokikyata Yeno Satyabhamara Swarupa.
Lokikyata Yeno Satyabhamara Swarupa. Vaishnavi.
Pandita Jagadananda Prabhura Pranarupa.
Pandita Jagadananda Prabhura Pranarupa.
Lokikyata Yeno Satyabhamara Swarupa.
Lokikyata Yeno Satyabhamara Swarupa.
Pandita Jagadananda Prabhura Pranarupa.
Pandita Jagadananda Prabhura Pranarupa.
Lokikyata Yeno Satyabhamara Swarupa.
Lokikyata Yeno Satyabhamara Swarupa. Pandita Jagadananda.
Pandita Jagadananda.
Of the name Pandit Jagadananda.
Of the name Pandita Jagadananda.
Prabhura.
Prabhura.
Of the Lord.
Of the Lord.
Pranarupa.
Pranarupa.
Life and soul.
Life and soul.
Loke.
Loke.
In this world.
In this world.
Khyata.
Khyata.
Celebrated.
Celebrated.
Jeho.
Jeho.
Who?
Who?
Satyabhamara.
Satyabhamara.
Of Satyabhama.
Satyabhama.
Swarupa.
Swarupa.
Personification.
Personification.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Pandit Jagadananda, the sixth branch of the Chaitanya tree, was celebrated as the life and soul of the Lord. He is known to have been an incarnation of Satyabhama, one of the chief queens of Lord Krishna. Purport. There are many dealings of Jagadananda Pandit with Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Most importantly, he was the Lord's constant companion and especially took part in all the pastimes of the Lord in the houses of Shivas Pandit and Chandrasekhar Acharya. So read the next verse. Pritye kariti chahe prabhuran lanana palan vairagya loke bahye prabhu namane kakana. Translation. Jagadananda Pandit, as the incarnation of Satyabhama, always wanted to see to the comfort of Lord Chaitanya. But since the Lord was a sannyasi, he did not accept the luxuries that Jagadananda Pandit offered. I'll read one more text. Text 23. Vijana katmati laghaya kunda tangra pritera katha age kabir sakal. Translation. They would sometimes appear to fight over trifles, but these quarrels were based on their affection, of which I will speak later. Jnanatipadandasya gananjana shalakaya chakshurum militam mina tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadatmahyam Tadatishva Patantikam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 verses speak about Jagadananda Pandit and his personality. As we see among the personalities who relate to Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is an unlimited variety. It's said that variety is the mother of enjoyment. So therefore, for the Lord to enjoy unlimitedly, He must expand Himself unlimitedly in the form of so many living entities, each one with a little different flavor in which they relate to Him, and therefore He can enjoy unlimitedly. Otherwise, no. The Mayavadis, they want to reduce everything down to one substance, one activity which is no activity, and one conception. And people nowadays, they want simplicity. So Krishna's pastimes are not based on simplicity. They are very complex. Krishna, his demeanor, his sweetness, his relationship with his devotees is very simple, yet very complex. This is the nature of rasa. In the material world, we have so much complexity trying to describe how the energies work, how everything happens, trying to dissect nature down to the smallest irreducible element. And we spend all of our energy, all of our variety is trying to discover something which is simply obeys the same laws and does the same thing all the time. Matter does the same thing. Shad Vikar. It's created, meaning that it exists, but it's created meaning it's put together. It grows, it exists, it produces, it dwindles, and it dies. Everything in the material world. In the second canto of the Bhagavatam, it's stated, just as we take a rope, you can tie a rope to some object and you go like this, you whip it, and it creates a wave. So in the same way, time moving through matter creates waves of civilizations and manifestations. And the wave comes and it becomes very big, and then the wave passes and it diminishes and goes away. Then another wave comes, and there's another one, and then it diminishes. And we see that throughout history. Even the Vedic civilization. It existed in its full glory, and now where is it? No, it's simply in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam and in the minds of the devotees who have full faith in the Lord. Of course, Vedic civilization is always there on different planetary systems. The demigods always follow Vedic. They don't go into the, Kali Yuga phase of, having to do everything differently and wanting to improve. They do things the same all the time. In Brahma Loka, there's no change. In Tapo Loka, Jana Loka, there's practically no change. In Mahar Loka, there's a little bit of change, like Kali Yuga. Like if you get close to the equator, there's no change in temperature. If you go a little farther away, a little slight change. Then you get to Europe, a big change. You get to then you get to the poles again, no change. It's always cold. And so, in the same way, certain regions of the heavenly planets, Gandharva Loka, Chinnara Loka, these places, there's some effect of Kali Yuga, but never a degradation of the Vedic culture. Total degradation. But this planet, this system, there's a degradation. Even in the subterranean planets, there's no degradation of it's always the same materialistic, based on the Vedic concept, but very materialistic. Only here we have that tendency that we drift away. Srila Prabhupada said in one of his books that, I think it was Renunciation Through Wisdom, in the introduction, he says that up until 5,000 years ago, everything was Vedic. Everything was, India was the seat of culture from time immemorial until 5,000 years ago. Only the last 5,000 years has it diminished its influence. Only the last 5,000 years. And Srila Prabhupada is insisting that we go back to that culture. Some people want to resist, but this is the actual culture. In India, there's some reflection of that culture. But in ISKCON, we should be the ones that bring back the real Vedic culture, the reality of Vedic culture, which means Vedic principles. We should live by these principles. That men should be responsible, that women should be taught to be chaste, that these are basic principles of behavior, Vedic principles. So, anyway. So Jagadananda Pandit, as it says here, in Krishna's pastimes, is Satyabhama. Satyabhama always wants to get her way, because she is the expansion of Srimati Radharani in Dwarka. So, Srimati Radharani is the Vaman Gopi, the most extreme demanding of Krishna, because she loves Krishna so much that she demands Krishna to do things. But ultimately, she is more submissive than anyone else. So this is a very interesting aspect of her personality. She's the shyest. Before anyone else, Srimati Radharani will never look into the eyes of anyone other than Krishna. Actually, when she was born, she had her eyes closed, and she wouldn't open her eyes. They thought maybe she's blind, she has some birth defect or something. Vrishabhanu was thinking like that. Some problem with her. But as soon as they brought baby Krishna, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai came, because they were good friends with Vrishabhanu. They came and they showed Krishna, and as soon as she saw Krishna, she opened her eyes. Otherwise, she didn't want to look at anyone else, anything else. Showing us there's nothing to see in this world. People always ask me, what do you think of, like here, let's say, what do you think of France? What do you think of Paris? And I say, I don't think of it. I try to think of Krishna. But the same, here, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, just like anywhere else, they just do it in the French way. And somewhere else they do it in the Italian way. And somewhere else they do it in the American way. And then we try to compare and think this is the best way. But the best way, as we discussed yesterday, is to please Krishna. So this is Srimati Radharani's greatest desire. And this is Satyabhama's greatest desire. Therefore she thinks that all the other queens in Dwarka are not capable of pleasing Krishna properly. And therefore she's very demanding. Even when Krishna went to deal with Bhaumasura at the request of the demigods, because he was creating such a disturbance in the whole universe. He actually wanted to take over the whole universe, just like many great demons, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, all these demons, they want to control the whole universe. So Krishna went and he looked at Satyabhama and she was like this, looking at him, with a kind of a sour look on her face. He said, do you want to come? Yes. So she came, on Garuda, and they went to have the pastime of defeating Bhaumasura. And then, on the way back, she saw the Parijata in heaven. She had become a little upset that Rukmini had a Parijata flower, and she didn't get a Parijata flower. So she had told Krishna, why didn't you give me a Parijata flower? But Krishna, knowing her nature, knew that just a Parijata flower would not be enough, because that would be the same. She has to have better. So he took the whole Parijata tree, and then she was very satisfied. Well, she's very demanding. So therefore, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifests as, when Krishna manifests as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Satyabhama manifests as Jagadananda Pandit. And he's also very demanding. On the one hand, he cannot be separated from Krishna. Practically speaking, wherever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go, Jagadananda had to go. You know. Even when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, Jagadananda had to go with him. As it mentions here in the purport, that most importantly, he was there in the Lord's pastimes in the house of Shivas. He was actually a childhood friend of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He grew up with Mahaprabhu. And in school they would always argue, because Jagadananda has this arguing attitude. And because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has the mood of Srimati Radharani, he was also arguing. You know, as Nimai Pandit, he was arguing with everyone. And so when he and Jagadananda, because they both have the same nature, because the nature of Satyabhama and the nature of Jagadananda is coming from Radharani. So this is like, you know, Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arguing with himself. You know. Just like if you meet someone that's very similar. Like sometimes people think that the world would be very wonderful if everyone were just like me. You know? But actually it would be horrible, because everybody would be thinking the same. There would be no just constant argument, you know. So this is kind of the mood between Mahaprabhu and Jagadananda. They would fight and quarrel. But this is the Leela. You know, this is their Leela. Even when Mahaprabhu, as we heard from Krishna book or from Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, we heard how when Krishna approached Rukmini one day, he started to tell her, because he felt like Satyabhama gives me so much trouble that it's very enjoyable. Although she causes so many problems, that it's enjoyable. It's rasa. It's always like, you never know what to expect. But with Rukmini, it's always the same. She's always submissive. She does what I say. She serves me so nicely. No. So let me create some disturbance. No. And so Krishna teased Rukmini, saying that, why did you marry me? No. It's not too late. We can annul this marriage. No. Even there was divorce in the, although generally Prabhupada said there was no divorce, Krishna was offering divorce 5,000 years ago. You can just go with Rukmini. No. I mean, go with Shishupal. Go with Shishupal. He's very qualified. He's a king. As he himself said, I failed in every way. I was a cowherd boy, but I don't have one cow. No. And although I'm a Kshatriya, I have no kingdom. I live in someone else's kingdom. So I'm not a good Kshatriya, I'm not a good cow. I don't even know what I am. No. And as far as being faithful, you certainly heard about in Vrindavan, I was going around with every girl. No. So you just why do you want to waste your time with me? No. So Rukmini just fainted. So, but Satyabhama, whenever Lord Chaitanya and Jagadananda would instruct Jagadananda, he would become very angry. No. Some of the things that he did when Lord Chaitanya, especially after he took sannyas. Before he took sannyas, he would accept Jagadananda's worry. As it says here, he was always concerned. He always wanted to see to the comfort of Lord Chaitanya. So when Lord Chaitanya was a Grihasta, he accepted Jagadananda's cooking. Jagadananda was a very expert cook, one of the most expert cooks. Right after Shrimati Shachi Devi, and right after Raghava Pandit, he was the best cook. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to be very careful and say, this is the best. This is better than Shachi Mati. This is better than Raghava Pandit. Because otherwise he would get very angry. And so, then after Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, then Jagadananda always wanted to make sure that he was the most faithful servant whenever there was a personal service to be done, he would personally interject himself, and he would be there to perform that service. So one day, when they were approaching Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya said, "Take my danda, and whatever you do, take very good care of it. Make sure that no one touches it except for yourself. Don't let it touch the ground. No, make sure that it's very clean, and because this is most sacred." So then Jagadananda was standing with the danda, thinking, "I have to take care of this." And Nityananda Prabhu came, and he said, "Let me see that danda." Jagadananda said, "No, no." He said, "No, that Mahaprabhu told me I should have it. No, I want to fix it." And then Nityananda took it, and he said, "This is just a bamboo stick." He broke it into 3 pieces. No. And then he said, Jagadananda said, "What did you do?" He said, "Mahaprabhu told me to do this." Jagadananda, he knew the nature of Nityananda. So he took the danda and he brought it to Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya said, "Who has done this? This is my sacred danda. Who has done this?" Jagadananda said, "Nityananda." This is also the nature of Satyabhama. She would always blame other queens. Whenever anything went wrong, she would blame others. Nityananda. So then Lord Chaitanya had an argument with Nityananda Prabhu. He said, "Why did you do this?" He said, "It's just a bamboo stick." Because what Nityananda didn't like is it was an ekadanda. No, it was a mayavad danda, and he didn't like that. He didn't want to see Lord Chaitanya with that mayavad danda. And he said, "It's not a bamboo stick, it's sacred." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Then you can punish me. So, if I did something wrong, punish me." He said, "Nityananda, you're so difficult." So then Lord Chaitanya, he arrived in Jagannath Puri, and every day Jagadananda would cook this fantastic feast. Now, of course, by that time Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already, just after he took sannyas, he went to the house of Advaita Acharya and ate this huge feast. It was like hundreds of preparations, and he would finish half of the preparation, and then Advaita Acharya would come and fill it up again. And he would complain, "I can't eat so much." He said, "Well, you're only eating half. I'm only serving you half. So what's the problem?" And then Lord Chaitanya complained that, "No, I can't eat this much. This will ruin my sannyas." And Jagadananda said, Advaita Acharya said, "Don't try to fool me. I know who you are. In Jagannath Puri, you're eating 54 times a day. So don't try to fool me with your tricks. Just eat." And so Jagadananda saw this. He was there. So he would come with this nice big plate of prasadam, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would say, "I can't eat this. This is for a king. This is not for a sannyasi." And so so Govinda brought the plate back very humbly. Lord Chaitanya didn't want it. Jagadananda just took the plate like that, hit it. And then he went away. Lord Chaitanya didn't see him for 3 days. He was hiding away. And then, so Lord Chaitanya said, "Where's Jagadananda?" He said, "Since you rejected his offering, he hasn't appeared." So Lord Chaitanya went to find him, and he was like this. He said, "Jagadananda, you should understand that whenever you cook, that I will always be so anxious to eat." He was very happy. He cooked this big feast, and Lord Chaitanya ate it. But then he said, "But from now on, you just cook very simply." So he accepted. He cooked very simply. And then later on, when Lord Chaitanya was again, he went off and he came back to Jagannath Puri, and he was sitting together with Paramananda Puri, and all of a sudden Ramachandra Puri came, and Ramachandra Of course, they offered their obeisances because Ramachandra Puri was the the disciple of Madhavendra Puri. And then Jagadananda saw Lord Chaitanya offering him obeisances. So he said to Ramachandra Puri, please come to my house. Please allow me to fix something for you, to cook for you. By your renunciation, I will certainly learn how to be renounced. And so Jagadananda, he came, Ramachandra Puri arrived at his house, and Ramachandra said, oh, so what do you have? So he brought this big plate. Ramachandra ate very sumptuously. He said, now let me make the arrangements so that you can eat. So he had a servant and he said, feed him, feed him. Jagadananda said, feed him more. And Jagadananda ate more. Feed him more. He was smiling at him very nicely. And then after he finished, he said, just see, I have heard that the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are gluttons. They just like to eat and eat and eat. They have no restraint over their senses. Now I can see it's true. And not only that, you tried to feed me so much. You're trying to ruin my sannyasi vows. No. So these are the followers of this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. No. They eat too much. They try to get the sannyasis to eat too much so they will fall down. And so that everyone can be on their same mundane platform. Just see. So Jagadananda, although he was very fiery with Lord Chaitanya, he was very humble before the other devotees. So because of that incident, Jagadananda Pandit wrote in his Prema Vivarta that, oh my brothers, those of you who are in the renounced order, you should understand that you should eat very simply and dress very simply. No. Sannyasi should never wear elegant clothes, nor should he eat very wonderful foodstuffs. And he wrote something else about that from another incident that he had with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. On another occasion, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was sleeping on the floor with nothing, sometimes just a chadar he would put on the floor and he would sleep. So Jagadananda was just feeling pain, seeing the body, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although his body was very beautiful, when he took sannyas, just to show that the nature of sannyasi, he became thinner. And so Jagadananda was feeling, just like Mother Yashoda would feel the pains on Krishna's feet when he would walk in the forest. She was thinking, he's stepping on thorns, he's stepping on sharp rocks. And the gopis were thinking this way also. And so, of course, it says that when Krishna would walk on stones, because of their ecstasy, they would melt. They would become like soft butter. And the thorns also would just become very soft, like they were made out of rubber. And the Lord would just walk on them. Because they just by seeing the Lord, they became ecstatic. But anyway, he was very concerned. So he made this nice bed out of straw and a nice pillow. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, what is this? That this is for a Vishayi, a sense enjoyer. Why don't you just make a big, huge bed with a bedstead, and like a king, big bed. Why you just give me this? So he was joking with him sarcastically. He said, I'm a sannyasi. And he said, Jagadananda said, you just like to torture your devotees. You just like to see them suffer. That is your greatest pleasure. We want to serve you, and you don't want to accept our service. And so he became very angry again. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very hot in the summer. And so Jagadananda, he gave Govinda this big pot, and he had many pots of sandalwood oil, pure sandalwood oil. He said, apply this to the body of Lord Chaitanya, and apply this to his head especially, and to his whole body. It will make him very healthy and keep him very cool. So So he came in, Govinda came in and said, Jagadananda has brought this oil for you, for your head. He said, I cannot use that. If I put that on, people will think that I am mixing with the opposite sex. That I'm putting on nice oils so I can attract the opposite sex. And Govinda said, but you must accept it. Jagadananda will become very angry. He said, I don't care what he does. You take it back to him and tell him that he should take it to the Jagannath temple. And they can burn it in lamps. And then that wonderful fragrance of sandalwood will permeate the whole temple and give pleasure to Lord Jagannath. So Govinda reluctantly again took it back. He doesn't want it because he's a sannyasi. And so Jagadananda took the pot and he walked in the room and he said, so you don't want this? He smashed on the ground. And he took a stick and smashed the pieces of the pot. He said, you don't want this? Then nobody will get it. And then he again went away, and for 3 days Lord Chaitanya didn't see him. So then Lord Chaitanya went to his quarters and he said, my dear Jagadananda, why are you lamenting? He said, because you don't want to accept my service. He said, no, I came here to see if you would cook. No. Chaitanya said, at least if he cooks, no. If I put on oil, then it'll be very bad. But if he cooks, I can be hidden away. No. Lord Chaitanya was very careful with his image. No. A devotee should always be very careful that others see us in the proper way as surrendered devotees to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One time at Advaita Acharya in Jagannath Puri, he invited Lord Chaitanya to come take lunch. But whenever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to take lunch, all the other sannyasis would go too. So Advaita Acharya he started meditating. And nobody knew what he was meditating on. Then all of a sudden, just before lunch time, he cooked all these wonderful preparations. And it started raining. Like this was during the dry season. But it started raining and pouring and hail and cold wind. And so but right where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, there was no wind, no hail, it was sunshine. And so he arrived at Advaita Acharya's house. But all the other sannyasis, there was so much wind and dust and hail, they were trying to find their way, they all got lost. And they didn't arrive there. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took lunch, he said, this is very wonderful. He ate so much. And he said, I understand that you have been praying to Indra. I think you've been praying to Indra. And he said, no, my Lord, I always pray to Krishna. And he said, no, I heard you pray. I heard you offering prayers to Indra. You were thanking him because you knew that if the other sannyasis came, then I would only eat a little bit. So therefore you prayed to Indra that please cause a big storm so that they can't arrive. And so you deviated them all from. So this is Lord Chaitanya giving the example. But Jagadananda was never happy with that example. No. He wanted to serve Krishna. He wanted to serve Lord Chaitanya, all of his devotees. Just like when Ramachandra Puri came to Lord Chaitanya's quarters after rebuking Jagadananda. Then he came to Lord Chaitanya's quarters and so he sat down with him and discussed. And then when he left, he started telling everyone, this sannyasi is eating sweets. Because Prabhupada ate sweets, but most of our sannyasis eat sweets. But he said he's eating excessive sweets. I could see there were ants on the floor, and therefore this indicates that he's taking sweets. And then Lord Chaitanya, when he heard that, he said to Govinda, tell everyone that I will only be eating boiled rice from now on. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for many days, he was just eating boiled rice. And Jagadananda got so angry because first he tried to ruin the reputation of Jagadananda. Then he criticized Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for having gluttonous devotees and disciples. And now he was directly criticizing Lord Chaitanya. So he became so angry he wanted to strangle Ramachandra. But finally then the Lord saw Jagannath. Everybody was angry, but Jagadananda was the most angry. So the Lord saw that and he began eating everything again so that the devotees would calm down. Otherwise, he thought that maybe Ramachandra Puri's life was in danger. The devotees could not stand to see Lord Chaitanya suffer in any way. Even Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami embraced the Lord when he had these infections, and the infectious material stuck to the body of the Lord, and he thought, I have committed the greatest offense. The devotees were very concerned that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would never in any way suffer. So Jagadananda Pandit, he wrote, after he had all these experiences with Mahaprabhu, he himself was very renounced. So he wrote in his Prema Vaivarta that a sannyasi should not take massages. Meaning, except for health, that's okay, but I mean, should not give massage for being comfortable. Sannyasi should not wear oils. A sannyasi should eat very simply. All this came from Mahaprabhu was teaching him through these pastimes. A sannyasi could have very simple quarters. All these things were espoused by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and later Jagadananda included in his book. But some other very important things he wrote in that book. Very wonderful book. Everyone should read it, Prema Vivarta. And one of his instructions is that he said that when one chants the holy name of the Lord, one should always chant in the association of Vaishnavas. That way your chanting will be pure. Otherwise the influence of the Vaishnavas, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur, quoting from the Prema Vivarta, he said that actually in one's chanting, one should hear, while one is chanting, one should hear the chanting of a pure devotee. Therefore, sometimes we put Srila Prabhupada's chanting so that we can hear the pure devotee. And that purifies our own chanting. He said, otherwise, if you try to chant alone, then you will certainly commit namapasa. Your chanting won't be perfect. And that will also result in nama aparad, offenses against the holy name. And then, he said, the result will be that you will aspire for material enjoyment, for knowledge, or for mystic yoga. So these warnings are there. We should take them very seriously. We shouldn't think, I'm the exception. Here this topmost pure devotee is speaking something, but I'm the exception. I can do this. It doesn't matter. I can eat very luxuriously and still maintain my vows. I can do this. I can do that. No. He's warning all of us. Every instruction that's here in Srila Prabhupada's books, every instruction given by the pure devotees of the Lord, this is all meant to help us transcend, and it's for everyone. Not that I've somehow or another even if you transcended. Had Srila Prabhupada not transcended Vaidhi Bhakti, but he performed Vaidhi Bhakti better than any one of us. One time Srila Prabhupada arrived in Australia. He had just flown from Calcutta to Singapore, and Singapore to somewhere else, and then I think it was Singapore to Bali, and then Bali to Australia. So the flight was like 21 hours traveling, and the whole time Prabhupada was just chanting, chanting the whole time. And then he arrived, like it was late afternoon. He went, had a little prasadam, then he had the program in the evening. At first there was a reception. The devotee said, Prabhupada, do you want to go up and rest? He said, no. They had a big reception. Then Prabhupada took his prasadam, and then he came down, gave a class. Now he hasn't rested for maybe 28 hours. And then as he went upstairs, the devotees started following upstairs. So the servant said, no one can come. Prabhupada has to rest. And Prabhupada said, they want to come? Then let them come. And Prabhupada stayed another hour and a half with the devotees. The servants were all up against the wall like this. You know, they were saying they were actually thinking about themselves, you know, and they said Prabhupada doesn't want. And then Shrutakirti Prabhu said that finally they thought now at least Prabhupada will rest, but till tomorrow maybe 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. It was already like 10:30. So then they finally they got Prabhupada everything arranged. They took rest around 11, and then at 1 o'clock they heard Prabhupada's bell, ding 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 ding. So where is my bath? And Prabhupada washed up and started translating. And he translated like 4 or 5 hours. The servants were like falling over dead. Then Prabhupada started chanting his japa, and he laughed. He said, "Now you can take some rest." But Prabhupada, he just went right into his routine. So he didn't have to do any of this, but he was showing the devotees. He actually sacrificed so many years of his life, took off so many years that he could have lived by acting as the acharya and traveling so much and giving this kind of example and sleeping so little, showing us that the real purpose of life, better to have a few quality moments with Krishna than live a long life. As the Bhagavatam says, the trees, they live a long life, but what is the use? No. You live a long life as a tree and you're in the mode of ignorance. So Jagadananda has given these instructions. He also said one should never pretend when one is chanting the holy name, simply chant sincerely and Krishna will reciprocate with you. So there's so many wonderful instructions that Sri Jagadananda Pandit gave to all of us. So this is very wonderful. He's being mentioned here. And the next personality is also a great personality, which is Raghava Pandit. And he had so many wonderful pastimes with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, Mahaprabhu said, there are 4 places where you will always find me. Whenever Mother Sachi is offering to her deity, I will be there personally. I will personally appear, meaning that he was there in person. And whenever Nityananda Prabhu is dancing, wherever he is dancing, I will be there dancing with him. Whenever Raghava Pandit is cooking, then I will be there personally to take his offering. And whenever Shivas has kirtan in his house, I will be there personally. So these 4 devotees are very special. Of course, Jagadananda is very special. Another thing that was just the last thing about Jagadananda, and then we'll stop. When he wanted to go to Jagannath, he wanted to go to Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya said, better you don't go to Vrindavan, because you're so offensive. You will just offend the Brajbasis. You will not like what they're doing, because he was very strict with him. He was personally very strict. And he said, you will criticize them. He said, please my Lord, I want to go to Vrindavan. But look, because he is, his original form is Radharani, so he was very desirous of going to Vrindavan. So Lord Chaitanya said, all right, you can go, but you have to stay under the care of Rupa and Sanatan. He had already told Rupa and Sanatan, he said, don't mix with the Brajbasis. He said, you can respect them, but don't mix too much with them, because they are not so strict like we are strict. But they are very dear to Krishna. So don't mix with them. Nowadays devotees have forgotten these instructions. They're thinking that this instruction was given to Rupa and Sanatan, but I don't need it. No. That's not a very good logic. Rupa and Sanatan, who were the top Rupas, were Rupanugas. No. But devotees now think they can mix and go to Vrindavan and just treat everybody and hang out with the Brajbasis. No. But that we cannot do. We respect them, we may buy things from them, we may have some polite conversation. But most of them, some of their habits are not so So first class. Even the ones who are very first class, they have different realizations about how to carry out Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada had a very specific mission and a very specific mood. You know, Mataji, you know this very well, you know, having been in Vrindavan so long. That if you mix with the Brajbasis, you will definitely, something will happen. Something will be, so many devotees do this. So Jagadananda finally